Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I want to just tell you a brief story, how I started my day. I left home this morning after making sure that my children had a good breakfast.
I've got it.
They were well rested and they were prepared for TN Ready, which started today in Dickson County for my 8-year-old. My wife, a public school teacher in Dickson County who teaches at a reward school, by the way, stayed up last night preparing lessons and thinking of ways that she could make sure that her students were properly cared for and have the tools that they need for success as we look at the last 5 weeks of school. And before I left home, my wife reminded me that one of our heroes once said, "Whatever you did for the least of these, you did for me also." And she said, don't forget, while we have had the morning that we have had, there are children in our state who don't have the same home life and who don't have a school that is designated as one of the best schools in the state. And remember that whatever you do for the least of these is what will matter long after you and your colleagues are no longer in the legislature. My wife started her teaching career in an area that allowed for school choice, both in the form of public charters and in the form of ESAs. And while she received job offers from many very elite private schools, she turned them all down to teach at an inner city school that accepted those payments of those ESAs. And she could tell you still today the names of those children who came there because it was where they got to eat. But thank God, thank the good Lord, that those children had a mother or an aunt or a caregiver in their life who cared enough about them to apply for this type of a program and get them out of that prison they were in that we have the temerity to call a school. So those children were able to have a chance at life. And today, she will run into them from time to time, or she will see them on social media, and they are doing very well because they were able to be pulled out of the pit that they were in, sent to a school with teachers, educators, administrators who could help them, meet them where they are, many of whom came to them as the as the Speaker Pro Tem said, from a school where a majority of their colleagues, their fellow students, couldn't read. But because they had a loved one in their life, because public policymakers had the foresight to create this type of programming, those children were able to be saved. And so when she said, don't forget, whatever you do for the least of these, you've done for me. I've got to think, members, that regardless of what happens to us throughout our career in the legislature, the way I think we can all lay our heads on our pillows at night is that we make the ethically correct decisions down here. And sometimes that's difficult. Sometimes we have very vocal, very well-meaning members, constituents of ours, who just disagree with us on a certain issue. And that's okay. You know, occasionally we have to say, look, I've studied both sides of an issue, and while you may make a different choice that I would make, I hope you understand how I arrived at that choice. That I didn't just shoot up in bed one morning and say, yeah, that sounds like a great idea, but I studied all sides of the issue and said, in this particular instance, for these particular students, this is the best way we can get them out of that pit. So thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm honored to support this initiative, and thank you for your bravery and your constant work on this bill. Long before I got here, you've been working on this issue, and I appreciate your leadership, sir. Thank you.